Good morning, everyone. It is Tuesday, May 12th. And today, the first thing I want to mention is that I did send out an email about a Google Meets. Um, First hour will be today, Tuesday. Third hour will be tomorrow, Wednesday at 10:30, and then fourth hour will be Thursday at 10:30. Again, it's optional. You do not have to meet with me. I will not be hurt. My feelings will not be hurt at all, but I wanted to make it available in case you have any questions face to face. All right, going forward, we're going to do my favorite of all time, the introduction. I love writing introductory paragraphs. It's taken me a while, but when other students like juniors or seniors come to me, this is one of my favorite things to do. And it may seem overwhelming at first, but it really, if you can start with a really, really good hook, you should be okay. So you will need your books, your orange books, pages 193 through 195. What I want you to do is I want you to read those pages. They will give you some really interesting hooks that you could use. They'll give you one that doesn't seem interesting and then one that does. So if I look on this page, there's some here as well. If you magnify it, you could see those, but I'll let you go into your book. So let's talk then about an introduction. I have sent you this as well, and I gave you 5 examples. When writing an introduction, the first thing you have to do is you've got to hook your audience. You have to get their attention. If you think of chapel, when we have chapel every day, the chapels that I remember is, those chapels where the speaker really got my attention right from the beginning, whether it was a story, whether it was a quote, whether it was something funny or something that they shared, some type of video. You will not be sharing a video in your paper, but what I'm trying to say is that speaker tried to get your attention first before going into the message. So on this sheet that I've shared with you, I've given you some examples. Now, this first one would have been, had we done the research paper, this would have been your book, that fiction book that you read. And so this was mine, and I told the story about Kaylee, and Kaylee was a fictional character, but I told the story about her, and I led up to my thesis. So the first thing we say is we want the hook. The second thing is you want to give background to that hook. So with this one, and I'm going to let you read these on your own. The more you read examples, the better your intro will be. So I'm going to talk about Kaylee a little bit. I'm going to give some background. This one, an ugly personality destroys a pretty face. Wow. I got that quote from Google. Now I have to explain that. So the most gorgeous people on earth can attract people with their beauty, right? But when their personality does not match, the pretty cannot balance out the ugly. Pretty cool. I'm giving some background as to what that means. The same can be said about college, right? If we look on the outside, college seems like, yeah, it's awesome, it's great. There's so much glamour when we talk, I'm going to go to college, everyone wants to go to college. But then we forget about the other side. And sometimes we just look at the outside of college and think it's glamorous, but we don't see everything. And so that's me building background. First, I give my hook, then I build that background. And the third thing is then we want to do what's called bridge. We want to take that and bridge it, like there's a bridge running across to the thesis, to make it make sense. So my bridge here, and don't get too caught up on that bridge, like, am I doing this right? You just want a sentence that leads into your thesis. So as I'm talking about college seeming it seems glamorous at first. There's this picture painted about how great it is, but sometimes that's not always the truth. Sometimes college can bring out the bad in life, and sometimes even the ugly. And then I get into my thesis. Although some people believe college has many benefits, that's my con. This isn't argumentative. There are many people who believe that college can often have many disadvantages. Okay, so you want your hook, then your background, then your bridge. This one, my daughter did one last year, my daughter Chloe, and she did one about males and eating disorders with males in sports, I believe. And we came up with this. We went to the internet and we looked for a really provocative quote, something that really would stand out. It's just as hard to be Ken as it is to be Barbie. Now think about that. Barbie, the Barbie doll, she's got an image to uphold. But what about Ken, the boyfriend? And if you're not familiar with Ken and Barbie, go and Google them. Ken's got to look perfect. Look who he's married to. And so when she handed this in, her teacher, Mr. Tachi, he just said that was a great quote to start with because it really got him to think. And so she then she had the background built up and she bridged into, unfortunately, there are males, not just females. We often think of females having an eating disorder, but the unfortunate truth is it's found in males as well. Okay, so I will let you look through some of the intros. This one right here, number 5, is my intro for my sample essay that I have that I'm sharing with you that will be on every day of the assignment so that you can always look to that. Now, excuse me, how do we hook? What are the ways that we can hook an audience? Well, one would be a quote, and I'm going to show you real quick how to do that. Another might be like a literary reference. If you look in your book, there's one in here about Mark Twain. It's a really funny one, so I'll let you read that. It refers back to a piece of literature. You might use a story. You might use a question, but here's the big thing with the question. You cannot use a question at the beginning like you would a speech. The only way you can use a question is if it's a rhetorical question. So rhetorical meaning the answer is obvious. We pretty much know the answer. You know, does a bear poop in the woods? Yes, it does. We all know that, right? So a rhetorical question, let's say I'm doing cosmetic surgery. And I say, how often does the media contribute to society's view on body image? How often? Well, we kind of know that. It's all the time, right? We see it all the time. Movies, magazines, social media, that being thin, you know, all of those pictures of the models, it's in our faces every day. So that would be okay. You wouldn't want to do something like, do you ever look in the mirror and hate what you see? Well, so do I. No. That's the type of question you don't want to ask. You're not giving a speech, and you maybe were allowed to do that in speech, but for this, I only want a question if it's a rhetorical question. Okay, so how do we get those? How do we start and get a quote, or we find something? I'm going to go to this. I'm going to say, let's see, quote about, I actually practiced a few. Quote about society's view on mental health. If you're doing that one, you can click on here. Excuse me. Oh, I don't like that one. There was a better one that I saw. Let's see. At the root of this dilemma is the way we view mental health in this country. Whether an illness affects your heart, your leg, or your brain, it's still an illness, and there should be no distinction. It's from Michelle Obama. Here's another one. I'm not going to go through it. That one you probably wouldn't because it's got the SHIT word in it, so we want to refrain from that. But as you can see, I can look for different quotes about that. Okay, so that might be one. Then if you had the quote, you would back it up and build some background. Let's do this. Quotes, there was one about video games. Excuse me. Video game quotes. Okay, here's a bunch. I found sometimes if you do, there was one I found, Brainy quote. I like Brainy quote. those come up. Okay, these are kind of long quotes. You can look through. These are long quotes, but you have to do a little bit of searching to see what you can come up with. Video games are bad for you. That's what they said about rock and roll. You'd have to explain that quote. You can't just drop everything and focus on playing video games for a living. Now, if you were doing the other side of video games, you could do that. So again, it's a little bit of searching, but see what you can come up with. Here, I like this when they give the pictures of the quotes. There was one that I found in here that I thought was kind of neat. This one's kind of funny. Life is a video game. No matter how good you get, you are always zapped in the end. Again, you can use that, but if you don't explain it, your intro will be a little bit weak. So whatever your topic is, if you just put quotes about sports being beneficial, quotes about cosmetic surgery on teenagers, or something with the way society views body image, quotes about sports being beneficial. I like the ones, again, with the pictures, okay? So you might find one where it's positive for sports and one where it's negative. I guess it depends on your thesis. So that's what I'd like you to do today, is go through Google, maybe find a few. Again, I don't expect you to have this intro done today, but I do want you to at least get a start with maybe at least finding the quote. Then make sure that your draft is shared with me. You're going to go right back into your draft and start typing that introduction, whether you do one sentence today or you do 4. You want to have at least 5 sentences in your introduction, but I will tell you the next couple days I'm going to be looking at those drafts. And the sooner you get the draft to me, the sooner I can make comments. If you get it to me super late, I can't make any comments. So make sure to keep working on this, and we will talk about the conclusion paragraph tomorrow. Have a fabulous day, and I will look forward to reading your drafts. Bye-bye.